In just 9 days' time from when I'm filming this review, it will be Christmas Day. But it would appear that Kia have delved into Santa's sack a little bit early, because I'm down here in East Sussex filming not one new Kia, but two, starting with this one. Welcome to this week's new car review. Welcome to the new Kia EV5. Please sit yourself down, make yourself comfortable in the house of cars. Now, Kia have been little short of forensic when it comes to filling in gaps in the automotive world, especially when it comes to their electric offerings. It all started with the really rather good EV6. Then they supersized themselves with the large 7-seat electric SUV, the EV9. Then they went a little bit more compact with the EV3. And they didn't forget about hatchback and saloon owners as well, because they've now got the brilliant EV4 to cover those bases as well. And if you need something a little bit more smaller, a little bit more compact, in just a few short weeks' time in January 2026, they'll pull the covers off the EV2. And I'm going to be there for the unveil of that car, so make sure you're subscribed. But if you thought, oh, there's a little bit of a gap in the middle there, you know, an EV3 is a little bit too small, but an EV9 is a little bit too big, and an EV6 isn't quite practical enough, you've nothing to fear, because now there's this, the EV5. They're medium-sized, all-electric SUV. Now, Kia say this is a C SUV. In other words, it's sort of their electric equivalent of a Sportage, but it's not an electric Sportage because they sit on completely different platforms, which means that this sits on a bespoke electric platform, the eGMP platform. So in other words, there shouldn't really be any compromises with it. But the question is this, there's no doubt Kia have been giving us quantity, but is it that at the expense of quality? Let's find out. However, let's take a look at the quick headline facts before we take a deeper dive into the main review. So the Kia EV5 is the brand's latest entry into the competitive C SUV segment. It's similar in size to the Sportage, which continues alongside it with combustion engine, hybrid and plug-in hybrid power. Every EV5 gets the same long-range 81.4 kilowatt-hour battery. As with most Kias, there are 3 trim levels to choose from: Air, GT Line and GT Line S. And prices start from just over £39,000 and rise to just around £48,000 depending on model chosen. Now at first, those prices seem a little bit on the high side to me for an electric C segment SUV, especially when you think about some of the competition that we've road tested just recently. So have Kia been a little bit too big for their boots with this car? Or is there method in that ambitious madness? Well, let's put it through a House of Cars road test review and find out. Oh, but before I do that, could I just ask you just to make sure you're subscribed to the channel, please, if you don't mind. And then when you've done that, turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next review when it's uploaded and it's gone live, because there is going to be an awful lot more coming on the channel, so you won't want to miss it. Right, let's see what this is all about, shall we? But as with most people, we'll start with how the car looks, okay? Which to me is more like a shrunken EV9 rather than an enlarged EV3. But whereas the EV9 is unapologetically massive and huge, the EV5 just seems a little bit tauter, a little bit tighter, a little bit more coherent in its design for this medium-sized sort of SUV. And it is unapologetically an SUV style of car, which I think really suits Kia's design language. You know, when you go into the hatchbacks and the saloons, it's a bit, I'm not sure. But when you see it on an SUV, I think it really does work. And I think the EV5 is a really handsome beast. Of course, you've got the usual Kia design language, opposites united as they call it here, where you've got sort of like curvy bits and sort of like flat planes and sharp creases that all merge into one, and it just works for me. I really like it. It's got a real distinctive look. You're in left in no doubt you're looking at a Kia when you see it, whether it's in the daytime or at night, with this signature lamp design that they've got going on. Of course, it's the usual star map DRLs down here, and then the vertically stacked headlights that you've got down here. Bit more of a clamshell sort of bonnet on the car as well, which I quite like. Again, as I say, quite unapologetically SUV-esque. The big Kia lettering across the front of that bonnet there as well. And then, of course, this big bluff sort of front end here with your digital tiger nose. And then down here you've got the gloss black finishing. There's not too much gloss black on it. There is a little bit round the side and things, but they've toned it down a wee bit. And of course you've got bits of tech. You've got your forward facing camera there. You get a big sense of your radar guided cruise control. Obviously you've got parking sensors, and then this nice sort of like, you know, sort of like a hatched area down in here for the cooling of the battery as well. Now bear in mind what I said. This is not an electric Sportage. It sits in the same market space as Sportage, but it is its own model. They haven't taken a Sportage platform and stuck a battery and electric motor in it. It sits on the Hyundai Group's eGMP platform, which is quite a scalable platform. And you'll see cars, as I say, from the forthcoming EV2 right up to the EV9 sits on this platform. So it's a really bespoke sort of like style of electrical architecture. So there's no real compromise with it. But I think this is a handsome looking car, and as I say, I love the look of the EV9 and I love the EV3 as well. But the EV5 to me just looks right. It just sits in that market space that's really crisp, clean, but as I say, unapologetically a practical family car, which is exactly what buyers in this market space need. Now, here's where I start to have a little bit of an issue with where Kia positioning this car, okay? It's just over 4.6 metres long, okay? It has a 2.75 metre wheelbase, so it's a good length of wheelbase. It's 70 millimetres longer, both in overall length and in wheelbase than a Sportage. They say this is a C-SUV, okay? But trust me on this, when you see it, when you stand next to it, and then when you're inside it, it feels like a much bigger car. It feels like a car from the class above. And dare I suggest, it's priced like a car from the car above. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, but that's where I'm sort of struggling with Kia a little bit. I think they've done themselves a bit of a disservice with this, but we'll go on to that. There's 3 trim levels, as you would expect with Kia. There's Air, GT Line, GT Line S. This is a GT Line S, okay? Now, I want to explain this a little bit. I didn't intend to take this car this morning when I turned up to the launch. When they offered me cars, I wanted to take what they thought would be the big seller, which is GT Line. The problem with that was it was dark grey. So I said, well, I'll have an Air then. And the Air was dark red. So we're both quite dark, dare I suggest, dull colours on quite a grey December day. So I went for the light green, which they only had in GT Line S, okay? So that's the reason I'm filming with this one, okay? But the GT Line, that's the mid-level one, that's the one they say will be the big seller in the UK. Alloy wheel sizes start at 18-inch on the Air and move up to 19 inches on the GT Line and GT Line S, and obviously this is the GT Line S. So you get these nice sort of black with diamond turned sort of like finish alloy wheels. The gloss black finish, which again, as I say, is sort of like toned down a little bit. There's not quite as much of it as maybe you've seen in Kias before, but of course it's around the wheel arches and then that little dividing section through the doors there. And then of course you just get matching on the pillars as well, which give it that sort of floating roof style thing, which I really like the way they design these cars. I really like it. And I do love these sort of cutouts, the way the bodywork just cuts into the wheel arches just there. And then again, the same on that back one there. Again, it just tones it down a little bit. And I do like that. As I say, it's unapologetically an SUV style of car. I mean, look how square and boxy it is, which makes it really, really practical. Big gloss black door mirrors, as you'd expect. Look at this line here, as I say, this is this Opposites United thing here, where you've got that crease that comes out the back of that clamshell bonnet, then into the door, then just disappears into sort of like a curved panel. I really like that. I think that's really quite cool. And of course, you've got the flush door handles that pop out when your car locks and you need to sort of like, you know, pull them open. So that's cool. And that helps with aero efficiency and stuff. Of course, you get the gloss black integrated roof rails into the car as well, and privacy glass along the back, again, depending on the model. And then you go into this very upright rear end of the car, which obviously I'll now show you. But yeah, as I say, it's quite a big car considering the marketplace that they're trying to position it into. But of course, as a family car, that's obviously a good thing. It's 1.67 metres tall as well, and it also sits a little bit wider than Sportage. So that's what I mean, it's not an electric Sportage, okay? Back end of it looks great, I think. It's really, really, in fact, I think that's the nicest looking rear end of all sort of like the Kias in this sort of design language. I love the way the lights just, it looks like a light bar, but it's not, because the lights just sort of stop in there. And then you've got your reverse camera in the centre there. That's a really nice, neat piece of trim, I think, and design. And again, I really like the way they do the rear window. There is a rear wiper, but it's tucked right up underneath this big roof spoiler here, which also has your integrated high-level brake light. So you lose the clutter of the rear wiper without losing the practicality of having one, if that makes sense, the way that they do it. They're not the only manufacturer that does it, I just really like that. And of course what you've then also got is you don't have sort of like a rubber seal or a piece of trim between glass and bodywork. So it makes it much cleaner, much sharper, but looks a lot more premium on the car, and that's what Kia are going for, a real premium look to it. The hatch opens quite low as well, down to sort of like bumper level, which is going to be excellent again for sort of loading and unloading the car. And of course the usuals, again, rear star map LED tail lights you get in the car. And look at the tailgate, it goes right out, all the way out to the side. You know, it doesn't stop there, it goes much further out. So it is quite good the way that tailgate opens right out. And then of course you get the gloss black section down at the bottom there to tie in with the rest of the car. I see a nice high mounted camera there, and of course your usual parking sensors, and then just a little bit of your reverse light down there, and of course your sort of gloss black diffuser as such. So what do we think of the design of it? I think it's the best looking one they've done yet. I genuinely do. I think this is a really good look. And I love all the Kias. I love the EV3, I love the EV9, I love the EV6. I think they're all brilliant, I really do. But this EV5 I think looks really sharp. I think it looks really neat. I think it's that car that just seems to suit that sort of design language. And I think they've done a really cracking job with it. And it's different to the Sportage as well. So it's giving buyers that real choice, whether you want combustion, hybrid, plug-in hybrid or electric. You can have a choice of different models as well. But it doesn't really matter what I think. What do you think? Would you trade out your Sportage for one of these? I've been waiting to see what it's going to be like. Skoda Enyaq, is that a car you've been thinking about, and maybe you're thinking, actually I really fancied a Kia, but I just needed something a little bit bigger than an EV3 and sort of like, you know, but not quite as big as an EV9? Is this now sort of like fitting into that pigeonhole for you? Whatever it is, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, you see what I was saying earlier about the tailgate going right out to the edges there? You think, oh, that's going to have a really wide opening. Yeah, it doesn't really. It is a bit more the styling that just goes out to the side there, because look, you've got this big panel there that it covers. Still, it opens up to a really big boot. 566 litres is what you get as standard in the car. And if you fold down the standard 60-40 split rear bench, it takes total capacity up to 1,650 litres. So that's what I mean, it's quite big when you think about it. An Enyaq, which is a D segment SUV, is 580 litres, you know, so it's almost as practical as that. But of course there's more space inside, but I won't ruin that for a bit later on. But not just in terms of the overall size of the boot as well. Kia are really starting, talking to Skoda, they're starting to sort of like click on to sort of like what other manufacturers do. So there's lots of nice little bits and pieces in here. You know, there's little clip out hooks for things to hang things on, you know, like luggage nets, which can then be moved along these little tracks here. There's little troughs at the top there you can just drop things into. You know, there's tie down hooks at the side and things like that. There's more of these little clips, you know, sort of like on the wheel arch bits at the back there. You also get a 3-pin socket in the back as well, so you can power things off the car. Now at the moment you've got the boot floor in its highest position, so you've got this flat entry in, and I like the fact that this is just that nicely finished plastic at the back there, so it doesn't really matter if you get scuffs across it, you know, it'll just wipe clean. It's not like a chrome finish that you know you're going to damage. The other nice thing is it's pretty much vertical, you know, the back end of the car. So you are right up to the boot of the car. You know, you're not having to lean over a bumper trying to push things across. So it opens right up, so it allows you to get straight into the boot. The boot floor is variable height, so you can lower that down, plus there's storage underneath here. So of course all your cable bags, all your tire mobility stuff, that sits in its own little dedicated trough underneath there as well. So you can still lower the floor down and give extra height. There's also a little hatch there where you can put a long load through from that point of view. Obviously I don't have my luggage to show you, nor do I have Tish with me. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and watch my Toyota BZ4X review. But there's more than enough space there for the usual 4 House of Cars suitcases or a Tish. So yeah, in terms of practicality, you're certainly not feeling shortchanged when it comes to the EV5. But it doesn't stop there, because underneath the bonnet, there's 44 litres of additional storage as well, which, as you can see with my rucksack, fits neatly in there. In fact, you get a much bigger rucksack than that in there as well. The other thing is you can also tow with this car. It'll tow a brake trailer up to 1,200 kilos as well. So as I say, in terms of practicality, EV5's got you covered. The other thing I like about the car is the doors don't go all the way down underneath the sill, but they go quite a way down the sill, and they take away a lot of this rear wheel arch. So as you're getting in and out of the car, especially when you're in sort of like a muddy car park like this, you know, you're not getting your trousers being pulled across sort of like, you know, dirty bodywork as well, which is quite good as you get in and out of the back. Now, here's the thing I was talking about earlier in terms of the size of this car. So Kia's telling us this is a C-SUV. Oh yes, this is our entry to the C-SUV. It's massive back here. This feels bigger than some D-SUVs that I've been in. And that's my point. You know, I see it does feel bigger than a Sportage. You know, especially, say, when you're driving up front, which we'll get onto in a second, it feels like a really big car, all right? Now, this one's got reclinable seats in the, you know, various different reclining positions you can have, which is quite nice. But if I sit here, I've got vast amount of legroom. I'm 5'8". In fact, that seat slides back a little bit when I get out of the car. So that's not actually my driving position. My driving position is slightly further forward than that. But even so, there's a huge amount of space here. And of course it's a flat floor because it's based on the EGMP platform. So 3 people across is not an issue at all because of this nice flat bench across the back of the car. There's also a good amount of headroom as well. Now admittedly, I'm only 5'8", but this car is fitted with the panoramic sunroof because obviously it's the GT Line S. So I've got room in here. Maybe if you're 6 foot, your head might be brushing the ceiling a little bit, but on a car without the sunroof, you'd have plenty of room. And as I say, you can also recline the seat. The roof itself goes way, way behind your head as well, so there's a vast amount of space behind you because of the style of the car. It's not like an EV6, so you've got so much space, you know, when it comes to sort of rear accommodation. And there's good storage as well. So you get the airline style mat pockets in the backs of the front seats. You get the ET head style, you know, head restraints, so you can use that as a grab handle or as a coat hook. You can put your coat over the back there. You get face vents, well, so vents in the back there, plus you get climate control here. The door bin won't quite take my big Yeti water bottle, but it will go in there, but it won't quite slide all the way down. But it's big enough for most water bottles. However, you pull it down and you can put it in there. And if that's not enough space for you, you also have down here this slide out part here where you can sort of like put your mobile on top of it. Or what you can also do is push that bit forward and you've got a massive big drawer where you can drop, well, tons of sweeties in there. You'd get a Christmas selection box in there, which is a huge amount of space. You've also got the 2 USB-C charging ports on the backs of the front seats as normal. So there's certainly enough to cater for families when it comes to the rear of the EV5, not just in terms of space, but also in terms of storage and in terms of sort of like nice things as well. Now, this being a GT Line S, this gets the heated outer rear seats, which obviously you don't get on the sort of like the lesser models. The other thing I quite like about Kia is, whilst they're not under covers, the Isofix bars are exposed, so they're nice and easy just to clip child seats in. And the doors open at a reasonable angle as well, and they've got a big bit of space to get a child seat actually in the rear bench, you know, and clip it into place. So as I say, tell me that it's a C-SUV all you like, Kia, but this is vast in here. And as I say, I've sat in much smaller cars which claim to be a lot bigger than this car. This is a proper family wagon. Now, just like the outside, if you're used to Kias over the last 2-3 years, the inside isn't going to come as a shock to you either, because obviously it uses a familiar theme that Kia's been doing over its current models, which is this sort of screen layout here, which is actually 3 screens in one. So you've got 2 5.3-inch screens, one for your infotainment and navigation over there, and then one in front of the driver's display here. And then you've got the center screen here, this 5-point-something-inch screen, which is your climate control, which I'll talk about in a wee second. One thing I absolutely love about Kia, and again, they've tweaked it with every model. They seem to tweak things in a good way and improving it. And I really love the clarity of this driver's display. I've driven so many cars recently, especially some of the newer Chinese brands with these smaller displays where there's a load of information crammed in there in quite a small font. Kia just do simple and big, that's it, and I really like that. So you got a big speed readout on your left, you get your big range meter on your right, you got a power meter on the right hand side next to that, and then you've got your battery percentage down there, an outside temperature, and your actual odometer. And that's it. That's all you have. That's all you need to concentrate on. The center part of the screen you can configure depending on what you want to see. So for instance, if you want your navigation in there or a trip meter in there, you can have that. So that's quite handy to have. But that's it. There's nothing really fancy that you can do with it. It doesn't change the size of the dials. It doesn't alter them. It's just got your basic layout with a small bit in the middle that you can configure. And I really like that. Now, as I say, it'll depend obviously on the trim level you go for as the level of equipment you get. So for instance, this is a GT Line S, so this gets things such as a head-up display, as I mentioned, the panoramic sunroof. It's also got ventilated seats in the front. It's got fingerprint recognition. It's got Harman Kardon audio system. But even the Air model, you know, the lead into the range, because I don't like calling them the basic car, you know, get heated seats and heated steering wheel. It'll get things like cruise control, Bluetooth, wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, all of that kind of stuff. So you're missing out on some of the, maybe some of the niceties, but none of the essentials, okay? And that's maybe the only downside with some manufacturers, and Kia are one of them. You can't add options to them. The only option I think you can add on really is the metallic paint. So if you go for an Air model, but say you want the panoramic sunroof, you have to then go up into the GT Line S. You can't have an Air with a sunroof. And I do find that a little bit of a shame in some respects. But there you go. As I say, Kia aren't alone in it, so I can't really knock them for that. Right, I want to talk about the quality of the interior, because I tell you what, every single new model that Kia bring out, you see an uplift in the quality, and this is superb. To the point, I would suggest Volkswagen need to get their hands on this car and take a real hard look at it and start thinking about how they can sort of like match the quality of this, because this is really good here. There is one area here where you could say it's a bit plasticky, and that's it. But the thing is, a bit like Renault, it's solidly built. So when you touch this part here, and it is literally just that bit there where the vents are and where the climate control system is, and that's it. The rest of it, every bit you touch feels real quality. The top of the dash, whether it's this bit over here with this sort of textured finish, it's got bounce back, that's rubber, you know, it's got nice here. The top of it along here and then down this side is a bit like Volvo's that neoprene, almost wetsuit material that they do. That's what that is there. And then the tops of the doors are the sort of like the, you know, the pleather, if you like, you know, and again, it just feels nice. And the armrests are padded, all the armrests that you put your hands on are padded, you know. Even the door handles, they are plastic, but they don't feel quite as flimsy as they do in some cars. And I quite like this blade design that they've got going on with them. I do quite like that. So again, as a touch point, it's quite good. You know, the face vents at the side, they've got a nice sort of feel, a nice oily, damped action on the actual movement of the face vents. It just feels like they've really stepped up another notch when it comes to quality, and I do like that. The only downside I would say is this here. You know, you've got these buttons in here that they're touch sensitive, and I think, and maybe I'm wrong, I think they used to have a bit of haptic feedback. They don't now. So when you press it, it doesn't have any feedback. You just touch it and it does that. So they are touch sensitive buttons, and they do obviously make that little beep so you know you've done something, but it'd be quite nice with a bit of haptic feedback. You know what Nissan do with the Aria? That would be nice. Anyway, there we go. Your screen here, this top screen here, of course, it's your usual Kia fare, which is very, very good, I have to say. You know, it's a very quick and quick to respond screen.
Proceed to the highlighted route.
Sorry,
then the route guidance will start.
No, route guidance cancel. Thank you very much. So you've got obviously your apps and things in here. Now, again, this is another step up for Kia. So you're also going to have things such as ChatGPT in the car. So you can interact with the car more, you know, ask it to do some functions for you, talk to it about route guidance, that type of thing. So that's integrated into the car. It also, you can also, for an extra cost, subscribe to various different entertainment guides, things such, I think it's Disney, Netflix, there's YouTube in there as well. There's the ability to use gaming as well. So if I press this entertainment, yeah, Kia Connect apps, you've got to subscribe through the Kia Connect app to get some of those services. But whilst you're charging, obviously you could sit and watch, you know, a House of Cars review on YouTube. Make use of your time, watch another excellent review from House of Cars. So all that's built in there now. And as I say, it's the same slick infotainment system that Kia's been using for a while now. It's very easy to use, it's touchscreen. As I say, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which are wireless, and they're very easy to sort of like set up, and that's how you would use it. Right. This little climate screen, I do want to talk about this because some people really moan about this, saying, oh, it's obscured by the wheel, and it is. There's no doubt about it. If I sit straight on now, holding the steering wheel where I would hold it, I can't see that screen. However, two things about that. First of all, there are physical climate control buttons here. So you up and down your temperature with the one over here. There's one for the passenger there. There's the fan speed button, and there's the mode button for directing the airflow. However, if you press this cross button here, there's your climate menu. So if you do want a more detailed menu, you can go in there and do it. But you don't need it because you've got physical buttons. So I don't mind the fact that that is actually hidden by the wheel, because all that's doing is letting you know what temperature you've got set, which actually is then displayed on the bottom as well, and your fan speed. So what's the problem, guys? That's fine. And then you just minimize it to be there so you can then use your infotainment. I don't have a problem with that. As I say, there's a lot of physical buttons still on the car. So you've got the temperature controls there, those touch sensitive ones along there to go back to your home page, your map, search, your media, and then set the car up, plus a favourites button. That's there. Then you've got buttons here. Now this will depend obviously on the model you go for, the trim level, but you get things obviously such as speed limit, is that hill descent? No, downhill brake control. No, I suppose it's the same as hill descent. Parking camera, and auto hold. Because this is a GT Line S, that's the fingerprint recognition there. So that for your profile, you can set up your profile and it will recognise your fingerprint. So that's there. Then you've got all the buttons on the steering wheel. So things such as cruise control and various things there. And then of course your media controls and telephone over on this side. Plus you've got a favourites button here. Plus you've got your usual press and hold this roller thing here, or is it this? No, it's this one on this side, isn't it? There you go, speed limit warning sounds off. So press the volume button for 3 seconds, it turns off your speed limit sound. There you go. And then you've got your lane keep assist one there. So you get shortcuts straight to the ADAS systems you want to turn off. Usual Kia stuff. Drive mode buttons in the centre of this bottom spoke here. There's no transmission here, it's on the secondary column stock. There's one that comes out of the steering column over here, so you push it in for park, twist it forward for drive, pull it back for reverse, and then your stop start button is actually on that as well. And then of course you get your usual column stocks that you see fit there. 2 paddles to adjust your brake regeneration, we'll talk about that when we drive it. Mirror controls and window controls over in the door here, and then you get things like your charging flap release and rear tailgate release here. And of course sunroof and all the rest of it over there. Massive amount of storage in the car, a huge amount of storage. So as well as your usual Kia flip out cup holders, you know, so you can fold those away if you just want a big more open space, or if you need a cup holder, you pop it in there. There's a wireless charging pad in this car, plus there's this massive big tray down at the bottom here, so you can put loads more stuff in there. Plus there's another big cubby in the centre here, so that's got more than enough in there for a family size pack of Terry's chocolate oranges that Santa will bring you. Plus the door bins, usually shaped to have a water bottle, which they are here as well. And then there's just a vast amount of, you know, oh, and there's a glove box obviously in there. And then you've also got a little flip out hook there, so you can hang your Christmas dinner off there. You're taking it around to your nan's, you can hang the plastic bag off there so it doesn't spill over the seat. So this is what I mean, they've really thought about a family car. They've just built a car for a family, and I think this is exceptional. There's loads of space. I know what we're like as a family when we go on a long road trip, you know, down at Cornwall up to Scotland. You know, Liz will take little snacks, and, you know, sort of, you know, there's a flask of coffee, and we've, you know, got a coffee cup, and Katie in the back will have our water bottle, and we've got bits for the dog and stuff. There's just massive amount of storage in here, and it's just easy to use, easy to live with, and easy to get on with. But for me, the big change is the step up in quality. Volkswagen need to get their hands on one of these and take a good hard look at it and say, that's how we should be building a car. Because I'll tell you what, I think this is Kia's best effort yet. And this, I think, as an interior for a family car, is brilliant. Right, time to get technical now. So the EV5 has one battery size available on it. It's an 81.4 kilowatt hour unit, and that should see a range of up to 329 miles from the Air model, or 313 miles on this GT Line S. That's just down to sort of the bigger wheels and slightly more trim on it, and it's being slightly less aero efficient. That's all, okay? Charging speeds are identical across all the models. They're 150 kilowatts, meaning you can go from your benchmark 10% to 80% charge in just 30 minutes. It's maybe the only slightly disappointing thing that I've seen with this car in some respects. I always think 30 minutes is the benchmark, okay? And I think anything that can do it in 30 minutes, that's absolutely fine. I just think maybe now with Kia's experience, they might have been able to get that charging time down a little bit. A slightly higher charging speed might have been better, I think, especially what they can do in the bigger models with the EV6 and the EV9. That's the only thing I'll say on it. But even so, it's absolutely fine. It's exactly what you'd expect. You get an onboard 11 kilowatt charger as standard, meaning that if you do have access to that faster three-phase electricity at home or work in a faster wall box, you can charge the car up, I think, from flat to full in around about just under 8 hours. Obviously, it's going to be a bit more if you've got a standard 7 kilowatt wall box like I've got. You also get vehicle to load with the car, but only in GT Line and GT Line S models. The Air doesn't get that for some reason. The other thing that they don't get is a heat pump. You can only get that on this top of the range GT Line S, and even then it is an option, which is something that Kia have been guilty with across all of their models. So it's not just on the EV5, that is the case with most Kias, which I think is a little bit stingy of them. I'd prefer to see it as standard across all models, especially with some cars costing a lot less than this, getting a heat pump as standard. But even so, its electrical architecture is as you'd expect from Kia. Now for the moment, you'll only get the EV5 in a single motor variety with one battery option, as I say, so that 81.4 kilowatt hour battery. It's a single motor, 214 horsepower. Doesn't matter whether you have the Air, the GT Line or GT Line S, that's the power you get, that's the motor you get, that's it. There will be a dual motor version, might even wear a GT badge along at some point, but for the now this is what you've got. And to be fair, do you know, I remember when I first road tested the Kia e-Niro, and I always reckon, you know, that's sort of like 200, oh sorry, I've just cancel, sorry, because I said
seems like your message got a bit mixed up. How can I assist you today?
cancel. This is the problem with voice activation. As soon as you say the name of the brand, that springs in. So anyway, I remember driving the e-Niro, we'll leave out the K word, and thinking that's about as much power as you really need a family car to be, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't need to be any quicker than that, because, you know, over 200 horsepower, just over 200 horsepower, you know, with a 0 to 60 time of 8.5 seconds, which this has, you know, was hot hatch territory not that long since ago, or maybe I'm just getting old. Anyway, that's what it does. It's 295 Newton meters of torque, and as I say, 0 to 60 in about 8.5 seconds. It's about right. It's what you would expect for this type of car. And in fairness, for what this car is designed to do and what it's capable of doing as it stands, you don't need any more than that, okay? So, what's it actually like out on the road? It's really good. I mean, really good. I mean, we expect Kias to be good. You know, there's no doubt about it. You sort of expect them to be, yeah, this will tick the box, this is a good car. You know, it's nice to drive, it's easy to drive, you can get on with it very easily. That's sort of what you expect. But just every new Kia, every time there's a new car from the brand, they just seem to elevate it up another level. It's not just the design and the build and all the rest of it, just the way it drives. I think this is the best driving one. I love the EV6, don't get me wrong, I really love the EV6. I think it's a brilliant car. And I still think that was a real, as I say, a line in the sand moment for them. You know, very sporty to drive, really different to what they've been doing up until then. That's fine. EV9 is a very different car, it's very big and all this. EV3 is a small car. This as a family car is just an absolute winner as far as I'm concerned. And there's a couple of reasons for it. But I'm going to start with how you sit in the car. Because I genuinely got in this car thinking the seat was in its highest position, and it's not. This is as low down as the seat goes. Not from the point of view of headroom, because as you can see I've got stacks of the thing. You just sit really high in it. I genuinely, if you've come from something like, or if you're driving, let's say, a Volvo XC60, or an Audi Q5, or a Land Rover Discovery Sport, and you jump in this, you'll try and put the seat down, because you'll think you're sitting too high up. Genuinely, it feels like a big SUV, this car, from the driving position point of view. And that means you've just got a brilliant view out of the car. The visibility out of the EV5 is unquestionably phenomenal. Over the shoulder even with that sort of like upsweep in that rear window line, there's still a window in there, so it's a 6-light design, 3 windows down each side. So you've still got that 6-light design, you can still see your over the shoulder visibility, no problem whatsoever. But I can see the corners of the bonnet, I can see all the way down, I can see even the swollen wheel arch at the back because of these big door mirrors. And when you look in the back, remember I was saying about that tailgate, that upright tailgate, that is the back of the car. So you know exactly where the back of the car is. So you cannot say, I'm a bit unsure of it, trying to come out of tight junctions or in the car park at work or, parking it in Sainsbury's. Not at all. You can see every single bit of the extremities of this car from the driving seat because it has got this real commanding driving position. You've got, obviously, on this one, it's fully electric adjustment of all the seats, obviously because this is the GT Line S and it's got those comfort style seats as well. The only thing I will say is this. I don't think the seat's as good as it could be, and dare I suggest as it is on some other Kias. I feel the base is quite flat on it. It doesn't seem to sort of like have a huge amount of support down the side of my legs. It's fine on the backrest. I just feel the squab is just a little bit flat, and it's also a bit firm, and it's lacking a little bit of length for me. That is the only thing I can complain about in terms of the driving position of this car. That's it. And that might be just for me. You might drive it and go, nothing wrong with that, Brian. That's a really, really comfortable driving position. That's exactly what I want. So that is very much a personal thing because we're all different shapes and sizes, and God forbid you're my shape. But you know what I'm saying? Everyone's different. But from my point of view, that's the only thing. Other than that, I genuinely cannot fault the driving position of this car. You sit, as I say, really high, really upright, great view out, this adjustable steering wheel in front of you. I'm never that keen on the GT style steering wheels with Kia, just only because the buttons pads on the side bulge out a little bit, and I find after a while they start to hurt the heel of my hand. But again, I'm a bit of a wuss, so that's probably just me. I like the Air model with the 2-spoke steering wheel, but it's a nice looking wheel, but it's a little bit too bulbous at the side for me there. But other than that, it's a nice thickness, it's a nice design, it's nice to hold. The buttons on it are really easy to operate, and of course, as usual, if you press and hold the volume button for 3 seconds, it turns your speed limiter off. Oh, now you see that's your attention warning going off there because I'm looking at the camera not in front of me. But you can go in, you can assign your favourites onto the button here, if my memory serves me correctly, is it? There we go, yeah we are. Driving safety, oh no, driver attention warning, that's what I wanted. Where is it? Forward attention warning. There we go, that's turned off. So a couple of presses and that's off, so that's good as well. So I like that. The performance, as I said, 214 horsepower, 295 Newton meters of torque, 0 to 60 in 8.5 seconds. Feels quicker. Put your foot down. Genuinely feels like it's got another 40 horsepower, I think, this car. As I say, I don't think anyone will drive this and go, oh, it's not quite quick enough. In terms of the chassis setup, it's your usual kind of standard fare McPherson struts up at the front, independent multi-link rear end. The ride quality and the damper settings are brilliant. They've got this just honed to perfection as far as I'm concerned. And remember, this is a GT Line S, so this has got the bigger 19-inch alloy wheels. There's not an imperfection on the road surface that I've come across driving it this morning where the car hasn't coped admirably and just gone, I'll deal with that, you don't worry about it, Brian, let me deal with that. There's a tiny, and I'm genuinely trying to find a fault so that I'm not just sitting here waxing lyrical about how good this car is, but there's a genuinely tiny little pitter-patter in its primary ride, just when you feel some small undulations or cat's eyes on the road and things, you can just hear the little pitter-patter, that's it, okay? It doesn't crash, it doesn't bang. When you go into sort of like big undulations or potholes, of which there seems to be loads around at the moment in the UK, there's no crash in it, and it's a bit like, as I say, that Citroen EC5 Aircross that I've driven recently as well. The way it deals with the bumps on this car is just phenomenally good. I can't complain about it at all. It just deals with soaking up everything. And that's what I mean. I think they've just got the spring and damper rates tuned absolutely perfectly on this car. Can't fault how they've done it. Not at all. The steering's tuned a little bit more for comfort and more relaxed driving than aggressive handling. But on saying that, there's a really nice weight on the steering wheel. So it's not overtly light. When you're driving the car, when you turn it, where the wheels are actually pointing. There's nothing there that's going to feel, oh, that's a bit skittish and I don't know where it's going. It genuinely feels like there's some reasonable weight in the steering. And I'm still just in the normal mode. Obviously you can change your driving modes via this button on the steering wheel here. So you've got Eco, Normal, Sport, My Drive and Snow. So there's quite a lot to go through. I go into Sport, and because I've got these comforts, these special seats on the GTL NS, the bolsters have now kind of gripped me a little bit further, like they do. These BMW and Mercedes used to do that, wasn't it? Where they grip you in a bit more, so that you've got a bit more lateral support on the backrest. Shame they don't do it in the Squab, but there you go. But on Sport mode, and you put your foot down now, it really does pick itself up and go. Then you've got My Drive, which is your personal sort of like side of things, where you can go in and tailor it how you want it. So if you want the more sporty throttle maybe, but the more comfort orientated steering, you can set it up how you want. So that's the other thing you can do. Then of course you've got Snow, where it obviously distributes the torque in a slightly different way in the power, and it will rein back on the ESC, the electronic stability control, because obviously in Snow what you do want is a little bit of wheel spin to actually start moving. So that's that. And then there's obviously your Eco, and then back to normal. But in normal mode, the car feels really well set up from get-go. It genuinely feels, and it tracks straight and true. The other impressive thing about it is the refinement. Now, and I do want to talk about this a lot, because I've been driving the Leap Motor B10 about a week ago, and I was quite surprised how noisy that car was. Not ridiculously so, but you know what I mean. There was just a lot of wind noise coming from here. This is near silence, and this is something, and it was something I noticed when they brought the EV3 out. And again, it's the same here. They've just stepped up a notch with this. The level of refinement that the EV5 has is unquestionably brilliant. As a family car, I would have no qualms putting Liz, Katie and Finlay the dog in this car, loading it with luggage and driving it to the west coast of France, or down to Cornwall, or up to Scotland. It's just that style of car. It just feels like it could just deal with that without even breaking sweat. And that for me is the real key with this car. They've concentrated, a bit like Renault did with the Scenic. I'm not saying Kia are the only ones that have done it. They've looked at what makes and a bit Citroen have done the same with the C5 Aircross. I'm not taking that away from them. I'm just saying Kia have really thought, let's build a really good family car. Just like they did when they did the original Nero. They just seem, all the stuff that I loved about the Nero is here. It's easy to live with, it's easy to use, it just gets on with the job. There's nothing, there's no quirks, there's no silliness about it, none of that. It's not weirdly styled or anything like that. It's just a big, sensible family SUV that's easy to drive and easy to live with. And it's just brilliant. There's no other word for it. It's brilliant, I think. Last thing to talk about is the brake regen, which is standard fare Kia stuff. You get iPedal 3.0, whatever they call it. So you've got your level 1, your level 2, your level 3, and then you pull and hold, and you go into iPedal, where it's got the adaptive brake regen on it. One of the best systems out there, the easiest to use, 2 paddles behind the steering wheel, nice and simple, don't have to go into the screen to control anything. It's all, and you don't have to even take your hands off the steering wheel to do it. That's the best thing about it. It's all just there for you. Kia, I think, they've just been on this upward trajectory, since EV6. I mean, e-Niro was brilliant, as I say, but the first generation Niro was just that little bit bland. Second one was made better. But EV6 showed them just starting to really ramp things up and change how people saw them. And then they did the same with the EV9, then EV3. As I say, you look at the EV5 and you go, we're sort of used to Kia styling now, and there's nothing really radical about that car. So really, what's it doing? But that's its genius. It's not radical. It is essentially what they have with Sportage, which is the best-selling model and one of the best-selling cars in the UK. It's just a sensible, get on with the job, easy to live with, easy to drive family car. And that's exactly what's the same as with the EV5, except this time it's all electric. And dare I suggest, it's even better than the Sportage. This is brilliant. Really, really brilliant. Right, pricing. See, here's where my issue in some respects lies, and the problem is not really so much of an issue that I have. I think Kia are doing themselves a little bit of a disservice by calling this a C-SUV, because we've already seen it's quite a big car in terms of its overall space, in terms of overall size, it's big. But I understand why Kia are doing this, because obviously what they have is a very successful model with the Sportage, okay, which is a C-SUV. It's the biggest selling car, the Sportage. They've sold bloody millions of the things across the years. And of course, what they're now saying is, well, this is the electric equivalent. So if you want to go EV, but you fancy a Sportage, this is what you buy, okay? But it's bigger than a Sportage in some respects, and it's priced a bit more than a Sportage. And that's that's the other thing I think is the problem. I think if they keep saying C-SUV and then you see at the price, you go, that's too expensive. If you see it as a D-SUV against some of the bigger cars, which I think it competes with, it's actually quite good value for money. In relative terms, okay? So it starts with the Air model, okay, at £37,145, okay? So that's where the car starts at. And then you move up to the GT line and GT line S. This is a GT line S. And I told you a little bit of an untruth there. This car isn't actually fitted with the heat pump. The only option this car's got is the iceberg green premium paint at £675. So this car on the road is £47,145. So if you add the heat pump, which I think is just under £1,000, you're looking at just over 48,000 for a top-of-the-range EV5, okay? So if you saw that as a C-SUV, you'd go, oh, that's a lot of money, isn't it? Because if you think about where Citroën have positioned the EC5 Aircross, you know, starting at sort of like early 30s up into sort of like round about early 40s, you go, why would you pay the premium for the Kia? This feels like a bigger car, and the Citroen's a big car. This feels even bigger. And that's what I mean. I think you've really got to go and look at this car. Don't just look at the prices and look at Kia going, it's an electric Sportage, and say, that's too expensive. Go and actually look at it, because this is a big, big car, and you're getting an awful lot of car for your money. So if you're driving around in something kind of like a Tesla Model Y, Skoda Enyaq, you know, Volkswagen ID.4, those bigger D-SUVs, I think that's the market that this car competes in. And if that is the case, then those prices I don't think are actually that bad. And of course, bear in mind it's Kia, so you get your usual Kia 7-year, 100,000 mile warranty with it as well. So you've got the backup and the sort of the service that you get from Kia dealers. You know, on the whole, I've never really heard anything but good things from them. So you've got to look at it from whole life costs and what you get for the money, the type of car, the size of car, the standard level of equipment, the warranty package, the efficiency, all of that kind of thing. When you take all of that into account, it doesn't seem quite as expensive as it first may do when you look down the price lists. Which brings us neatly on to talking about the competition for this car, which, as I say, isn't going to be easy because we need to define its market position. Well, I think we can all agree that it's somewhere between C and D segment, okay? So it's going to draw competitors in from both of those marketplaces. So if we start in the C segment market, you're going to be looking at things such as the Renault Scenic E-Tech. That, I think, is a brilliant family car, and I think that's going to be a competitor for this car as well. Skoda, this is the one I'm really struggling with here, because in some respects, when I reviewed the Elrock back on Auto EV and I said it's a B SUV, everyone said, no, it's not, it's a C SUV. An Elrock is a smaller car than this, okay? And it competes with the EV3, which is a Kia, and this is an EV5. So do you see what I mean? It's a weird sort of size of car from Kia to sort of like say C SUV, because if they say that EV3 is a C SUV, what does that make this? A D SUV. So then you're going to look at things such as the Enyaq rather than the Elrock. So it's going to maybe compete with both of those cars. And if you're looking at Enyaq, then you're going to be looking at the rest of the MEB platform cars as well. So Volkswagen ID.4, Ford's Explorer, That's a car that you'd maybe consider instead of this as well. And then of course there's the confusing one from Stellantis Group as well, because they've got cars that again that seem to straddle both classes. The Citroen EC5 Aircross, a brilliant family car, huge amount of space inside, massive range on that car as well because of that big battery, that long range battery as well, and a really comfortable and brilliant family car. Offers brilliant value for money. I think, you know, a lot of people have talked about the Chinese brands offering value for money. I think Citroen's the one to watch when it comes to value. Trust me on that. So that's a competitor for this car. And if you look at the EC5 Aircross, then you also look at some things such as the Vauxhall Grandland. That's a competitor for the car as well. Peugeot have got the E3008 and E5008 as well. So they're kind of hitting the base with two cars as well. So you'd maybe consider those as competition. And then of course you've got some of the newer Chinese brands that have come in. And while we're on Stellantis Group, they've got Leapmotor under their umbrella as well, which has the C10. And that's another car that offers a huge amount of car for not a massive amount of money in some respects. So that's a competitor for it. And of course we've had things such as Changang with the Deepal S07. That's a car that you'd maybe consider as a competitor for this one as well. And of course there's the ubiquitous Tesla Model Y, you know, because again Tesla have sort of reconfigured their prices and sort of like, you know, it's a huge seller, the Tesla Model Y. And you know, and in terms of interior space and what it offers, it's on a par with this. So that's a competitor for it, but it's more of a D segment car. So what I'm trying to say very badly is you've got a massive range of choice out there when it comes to competitors for the new Kia EV5. So choose wisely. When we think of all the new cars that Kia have launched over the last few years, especially their electric offerings, they've all been in some respects quite radical, I think. Take the EV6, their first. That was a real line in the sand moment, I think, for Kia, because here they were with this sporty, low-slung electric crossover, which was bringing in people to Kia that maybe had never really considered the brand before. People that would normally have bought things such as BMW, Audi or Mercedes. And then of course the EV9, a large premium SUV. Kia's never been in that marketplace before, but here they were with this radical looking, massive big electric SUV saying, look what we can offer you. And then of course the EV3, this sort of compact 5-door family car that looked quite different to everything else that was out there. And given the number of them that I see on the road, it's obviously doing the job for them in the retail market because there's loads of them running around. Now in first acquaintance, you look at the EV5 and you think there's nothing really radical about that. It's just a medium-sized family electric SUV, which plenty of other manufacturers offer. But that's the genius about this car. They've not concentrated on doing something radical with this. They've concentrated on getting the basics right, which is to make a really good electric, medium-sized family SUV. And trust me when I say this, they have succeeded. Because not only is this car very spacious and very practical, it's also very efficient, it's also very well built. I think the best Kia in terms of its build quality to date. It's also very sustainable, a real message that Kia have been very, very keen to point out over the years. It offers that as well. But more than that, it's refined, it's easy to drive, but most importantly of all, it's easy to live with. And I think, despite the fact we're still not quite sure what market space it fits into, I think it offers good value for money, which is exactly what family people want when they're buying a family car. So no, whilst it's not the most radical Kia that we've seen from the company over the last few years, I think it is not only the most important, but I also think it's the best. Thank you for watching another road test review here on House of Cars. As always, please make sure you are subscribed to the House of Cars channel. And then when you've done that, make sure you've turned on your notifications so you don't miss the next review when it's uploaded and it's gone live. And trust me, there is a lot of reviews coming to this channel. I've been quite busy over the last few weeks and I've got a busy few months ahead of me. So there's going to be a lot of content coming here. Can I also just say, from a personal point of view, the comments and the words of support that I've had across on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the social media platforms since obviously leaving Auto EV and concentrating House of Cars. Your words of support have meant so much to me. They genuinely do. And please believe me, I read every single one of them and I do my best to comment on every single one, reply to you all. So thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it. If you do want to follow me on social media, I'm on Instagram and it's at House of Cars 1973. So if you want to follow House of Cars there, that's where you can do it. And remember, whether or not it is a new car or an old car, a small car or a large car, a slow car or a fast car, you'll find them all here in the House of Cars. Thank you again for watching. As I say, thank you for your support. I'll see you again soon.